Hi, Megan Medhus here with my Principles of Nature final video essay. Here it goes. If you were to ask me, as a sophomore in high school, where I thought I'd be in the next 4 years, I definitely wouldn't have guessed I'd be where I am today. Never did I think that I would be finishing my sophomore year of college online, and at home 2 months before school is supposed to end. There have been many different opinions and public views on the coronavirus pandemic, but I was never really scared or worried about my personal health. Looking at the pandemic issues in the eyes of Nietzsche, I think we all have different views on what we find to be true and what not to be true. These truths are based on our realities, and sadly to say, our reality has changed drastically due to COVID-19. My personal reality has changed significantly. Starting with my normal things, we're supposed to be at school right now, and I should be with the Benedictine softball team competing for a national title. Sadly, that all had to come to an end. And then, my daily routine has also changed. I no longer get up at 5:30 for 6 a.m. weights on Tuesdays, Thursdays, or Fridays, and we don't have team practices or games anymore. But based on Nietzsche's ideas of subjective truth and objective truth, I think that a lot of people's subjective truths have been influenced by the media, especially in the beginning of this whole pandemic. When we were in Arizona for softball during spring break, a lot of the media influenced what we thought was going to happen with our season, whether it was true or not to be true. But because the media was presenting it to be true, we all believed it, and we're worrying about things that hadn't even happened yet. But at the same time, our objective truths have also been filled by doctors and political figures. Our objective truths at this point are merely to keep us sane, because the only reality that we can rely on is the subjective truths. Those truths are the ones that will provide accurate health information along with quarantine bans and stay-at-home orders. In Nietzsche's text, The Gay Science, which can also be interpreted as happy knowledge, there is a theme that not enough people in this world are joyful in their lives. And at a time like this, in all of our lives, it is most important to stay positive and find something to believe in, whether it's God or not. But an idea from Nietzsche suggests that if you do not believe in God, or that there is not a God, you have to lean towards yourself as your own God. Science gives people something to believe in based on the facts. But if we were to put belief into God, we don't, and we won't have to always rely on science to give us the answers. By believing the facts during the pandemic, it is likely to relieve stress and or fear, and this allows you to rely on science. And on the other hand, if we dedicate some of that belief to God or a God, we will be able to live powerful and meaningful lives during this crisis, as well as days moving forward. In terms of our readings this semester, I think a lot of them, if not all of them, relate to the global pandemic. In Plato's The Allegory of the Cave, it showed a lack of education. What seemed to be true for one person was not necessarily true for everyone else. The reason the one person saw one thing to be true is because that is the only thing they have ever known. During this worldwide pandemic, I feel as if we were all the man in the cave looking at the shadows that the sun is creating. We are all playing it by ear. We don't know how long till we can live our lives as they were before, or if we will ever return to the normal again, for that matter. But after about 2 months of this contactless reality we live in today, this has become our shadow and our new reality, because we are all stuck like the man in the cave chained to the chair, staring at the wall with only the shadows as his reality. He knew nothing else but those shadows. He didn't know what the world was like. But because he was in the chair and he was chained, staring at a wall, where the sun was coming in behind him of someone holding up an alligator, he saw the shadow of that alligator to be his form and his truth. But like everyone else going through this tough time, I want to see the light that is casting the shadow in the cave. I wish and I hope for things to go back to normal. But not all the way back to normal, because aside from all the negative publicity the coronavirus is getting, I think there is a few positives to point out. The first being love. Since the global pandemic, the love in the world, I feel, has increased tremendously. In Plato's Symposium, the topic of eros, the desire for union. But instead of desiring a union with another body, we are desiring a stronger union, one that is not bodily. We now see what our lives are like when isolated, and we don't have the opportunity to feel that desire, and we want it even more than we did before. Another positive to this global pandemic and this crisis in time in our lives is the crime rates. Crime is the lowest it has ever been. And as Plato wrote about in the Symposium, perfect love is directed towards the good, and people have discovered their true good within themselves during this time period. One of the most positive outcomes from this ugly virus is the pollution level as well in the air has decreased significantly. I live in Colorado, and living in Colorado, the mountains are always the focal point and the center of everything and the most outdoorsy thing that you can do. Us Coloradans love to go hiking, skiing, we do everything in the mountains. But since moving here when I was 6 years old, the amount of smog that has built up and covered the view of downtown and the foothills from our front porch has become so strong that the smog has become so strong that it is as if there was a cloud covering the view that once stood there. However, with the stay-at-home orders and less people out and driving around and putting the pollution into the air, the smog has pretty much totally vanished. It's cleared. And the view of the beauty has been restored. We are now able to see the mountains and downtown view as beautiful as it once was. And in terms of the cave, the sun has enlightened everything that we once knew to be true, and our reality has been restored. I'm not sure why the global pandemic exists, nor does anybody else, but maybe it is a blessing in disguise. In my eyes, the beauty of the world has been restored, but sadly, it was at the expense of other people's lives. Although we have learned from Plato, death is not the end of our journey, but perhaps the start of a new one. Thank you.